Hello once again, dear friends. Welcome back this afternoon when it's time to summarize today's events.
I hope you've had a good afternoon with interesting breakout sessions and discussions, and we thought we'd just start this summary with actually asking you as well what you have experienced during the afternoon. And let's see, Ebba, if we can find somebody to comment on what they have heard or seen or learned.
I'm on microphone number 3, and I want to ask you, Henrik.
Yes.
Did you go to a breakout session?
Yes.
Which one did you go to?
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned, and what did you learn from that?
I learned that COPD is one of the biggest diseases in creating hospital care needs, so the number of hospital nights, that's surprising.
COPD, what is that?
Cool in Swedish, chronic lung disease.
Okay.
And there was some exciting projects shown there.
Okay. Anything that you will take with you into your daily work in terms of changes that you will make?
Well, I agree with those that said that you have to engage the patients early on in the process and work with them and not for them. So engage them. We also had another breakout session where we did some brainstorming workshops where we very quickly created ideas for digital services. That was quite fun.
Thank you, Henrik. What's your name?
Rodrigo Garay.
And where are you from?
I'm from the Swedish Fund for Research Without Animals.
Okay. And did you go to a breakout session?
Well, we hosted one.
You hosted one?
Yeah, so I was there. I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And what did you talk about?
Well, we talked about that you can use computer models to not only find other alternatives to use animals, but those models is actually much more cost-effective, they are more accurate, and they're very good for humans.
All right.
Because we will have affordable ways of finding the new drugs in the future.
All right. Thank you very much. And what is your name?
My name is Carolina Johansson. I work for Stockholm Science City Foundation.
Okay.
And, well, my favorite session was actually one that Henrik mentioned also with working together with one patient, trying to come up with a creative solution for a specific question.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody here attend the Pia Höök one with the robot? Hands, show of hands. Anyone here? Yes. Good. Interesting. Exciting. Scary. A bit of yeah. Yeah.
So we are moving forward. We would like to invite one of the last panels for today. We would like to invite to the stage our beautiful panel, Ulla Hamilton, Vice Mayor of Stockholm, Tyler Crowley, Startup Community Consultant and organizer of Stockholm Tech Meetup, one of your fellows. Jakob Boije, we met you before, Jakob, leading Veryday's highly focused connected health design team. Torbjörn Hägglöf, welcome, client executive of life science industry for IBM. We have Ylva Hultman, business development manager at Stockholm Business Region Development for Life Science and Finance. A big hand to all of you. You're most welcome. So before we get started, we have a question for you. It's time for you to reach for your little white gadgets once more, because we want to look into what your thoughts are on this question. Which is the strongest factor for developing a good business and innovation climate in Sweden, or it could actually be in your or your own specific countries as well? What are the key factors? Okay, we have high quality education and staff, experienced and abundant venture capital, great meetup spaces, efficient innovation processes, and political decisiveness. Okay, give that a thought and give us your answers now, please.
Okay, and we should be getting the results. There we go. We have a very even spread, but with innovation processes, yes, and high-quality educations and staff. We'll get back to this question, I think, during the panel as well. I think that, I mean, a lot of things are centered around, you know, everybody's talking about Stockholm, and Stockholm is a great place to be, and I mean, we read about the startup space and what's going on, but I mean, why is Stockholm a great place to be in? Ulla and Tyler?
I think one reason is that we actually have all these kind of factors that you have on this slide.
Exactly.
So
You took the same answer out of my head. It's because Stockholm has all of those, yes.
yeah, and adding to that, we are a fairly small city. It's close to between different branches and so on, and we have a lot of specialists within the ICT sector, in the life science sector, and we have a booming gaming industry as well, and all this, quite a lot of universities, and all these together with a lot of data, a lot of information, and citizens that's really, really interested in technique and using new ideas and stuff and so on. And all this combines to a very special situation for Stockholm. And that's why we are where we are today, I would say.
And just one, and Tyler, I know, I mean, you've seen the Bay Area with Los Angeles and then the London area, and now you're in Stockholm.
Yep.
And I know that when you have your tech meetups, it's sometimes you even sound sort of amazed of how quickly things are developing here.
Yeah, and it's, to me, the right answer, if you have to pick one, I would pick A, because I work with a lot of different governments all over the place, and they don't have the talent, the pipeline of talent to make it happen. They don't have the schools that are creating the engineers, and what KTH does here in Stockholm School of Economics and all of the schools here. They just create the soil that makes it all possible. And by the way, B, everyone who picked B, you're wrong. No, the point I want to make about B is the investors will go where that soil is. Yeah. They'll just find it and they'll be there. Yeah. So you really have to, but creating A is actually quite hard. To give you an example, I was helping Sydney, Australia recently, and Sydney, a lot of cities want to be like Stockholm these days. And they're like, how do we do it? And they don't have, and in the case of Australia, most people are going into mining, and same with Norway, where they go into the oil trade, and it's like, how do we get people incentivized into going into innovating in technology? And in the case of Sydney, it was like, well, you have to import it, basically, because the schools are so far behind that we came up with a solution where we look at China and all of the Chinese immigrants who want to move to Australia, and giving preference to the ones who have PhDs in and the right skill sets. So Stockholm just natively has those skills, and very few cities on Earth, in fact, have the quality of skills that the students that come out of these universities have here. Very few, very, very, very few.
Jakob, we met you earlier, and you presented your company, Veryday, and you're bred in this environment. Do you have the same view as Tyler? Is it a special fertile ground for creating this kind of creativity and spark?
I think one thing that's pretty great about Stockholm, and I would even want to expand it from Stockholm, so it's almost Sweden versus the world. So it's not Stockholm versus other cities. Swedes has a certain amount of I trust the system. I trust the big man to help me out. So, and this has implications on the way you go about creating services. So, if I walk down to my local pharmacy, I trust them with my personal data because that will come back to me as a proper service. This does not exist outside Sweden in any other place. That kind of notion of I trust the other person to help me out. So if you go to the US, I mean, this could be, it's driven more by, let's say, big cities, New York, San Francisco, San Diego, where people are really reluctant to give away any data about themselves. This actually stops the innovation process to some degree. So I think to the question of why is it good to start here, we want this. Most Swedes, at least, the population the people that ultimately going to drive innovation really want this to work. They want to interact with service providers through the mobile phone. They actually want to do that because they think it's convenient. Maybe it's because they're a little bit shy of conflict, perhaps. I don't know, but you know.
Torbjörn, you work for global company IBM. What is your perspective on this issue?
I think, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this panel. Great to be here today. Sort of the view I have is sort of continuing on the global scale. And I think we need to sort of put Sweden or Stockholm into a perspective of where we are in the world. I think in terms of research, Sweden is less than 1% of the total research on the globe. And if we then divide Sweden, so I think 63% of medical research is being done in Stockholm. So this is the actual hub that we're looking at. But at the same time, sort of that is also what we saw in the questions is sort of the foundation, the way that I look at it. These are things that we need to have in order to be competitive on the global market. But I think what we need to do in terms of maybe to enhance the value proposition we have is sort of asking ourselves, what is our product?
And what is it?
And sort of also take it, who is this product compelling to? Is it the small biotech company in Lyon, in France, that we would like to have to move to Hagastaden? Would we like to have the big global pharma companies coming here? So I think that is sort of a key question that we need to answer. And we start to answer that question, then we can focus and utilize all of the platforms, the foundations that sort of were in the questions, and sort of focus those resources onto very targeted value prop, so we will be sort of regarded as the hub of healthcare or life sciences or whatever it might be in the world. That's sort of the view I would have from a global company, and also probably if I Twitter this, then would be my personal view.
And Ylva Hultman, you have actually noticed now that many venture capitalist funds are actually setting up local branches in Stockholm because they want to be close to this honey, right?
Yes, and they're welcome. So it's what we see in Stockholm is fantastic conditions. We have the leading healthcare system, we have fantastic IT companies, and we have the pharma and market technology companies in place. And we have the most creative minds are now starting forming the new generation of digital health companies. So that is the conditions. And then we have the citizens in the greater Stockholm area that are well educated, used to a high standard of living, and very demanding. And they are pushing this empowered patient trend within the digital health companies, and a bit frustrated, and I think that's a very, very good driver pushing this digital health business sector.
I mean, okay. This is not on my side. It can't all be good. I mean, there must be something there that we have to do better, right?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of old systems.
Yeah.
That's quite hard to change in order to use all these possibilities that we have. You can see it in the hospitals and healthcare sector and so on. And if you're talking about education, and there is a lot of places where you are working as you always has done, and a lot of regulations and so on that actually is a hinder in order to change the way of working and to use all these different kind of possibilities that we have. So this is a real challenge, I would say, because we have the infrastructure, the ecosystem for new ideas, but it's quite hard to implement it into the already existing areas.
Could you make the analogy there that, I mean, in some African countries, they're way ahead of us when it comes to like mobile payments because they haven't had to sort of leapfrog an old system. Is that the same kind of thing we're talking about here?
But the opposite.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah. Well, it's the old. It's not the problem. Isn't getting new ideas. It's getting rid of all the old ones.
Yeah. If you compare to Estonia, for example, when they were going to invest in a new telecom system in the early 1990s, they can actually skip a lot of technique steps and do the investment from the most modern point of view. So
So we have a lot of creative people in this room with a lot of business ideas in terms of digital health. What would be your suggestions? What is the giant leap that they will all have to take in order to get their businesses growing? Suggestions?
I think they should use their patient power.
Their patient power?
Yeah. Make your choice. You have a power as a patient and relatives and families. Use the power of choosing.
Torbjörn?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that, and sort of that is generating a lot of data. And I'm going back to one of the presentations earlier today when we talked about big data, and sort of healthcare is one of the industries that really has a lot of information, but most of the information is unstructured. So it's text, sort of scientific papers and so forth. And the problem is that what we have today in terms of IT and supporting system is a system that is based on that you have to have someone do some programming. And this is sort of machine programming, and you don't really understand what you're doing. So I think in order to be bold, let's skip that and move into sort of the cognitive area where we use cognitive computing with systems that actually understands natural language. And in that sense, sort of reap the benefits of everything that we gathered from a scientific perspective and information perspective. I think that would be something that would be really sort of, you asked for a little bit of a provocative statement, but I would like to have something saying that in 2018 or 17 or something like that, Stockholm will have the world leading and the first system based on cognitive computing or whatever, something like that, and we have a very sort of focused goal that we're working towards. And that will sort of also have a lot of side effects in terms of different applications that could be developed in terms of the wellness, the fitness area, as soon as we start to understand me as a person and sort of engage me in my sort of own life, and then empower me to have a freedom of choice, either if I would sort of in the system that I'm working in. So I think that's the key sort of networking possibility.
I think a good starting point is that the kind of the data points and the brute force of the data power to just crack those problems. I think the issue here is that some of these business models and things you need to figure out within digital health, they're actually pretty complex. There's a lot of different stakeholders. So it's actually pretty hard to sit down and say, this is the thing we're going to work with, this is how this is going to work. So the only way to do this is to open up and really interact with lots of other stakeholders and say, hey guys, we have not figured this out, but you're going to have to help us out. So this is the key thing for entrepreneurs, for established stakeholders here. Find a way to really go in there and just learn from others. So through other meetups or forums, connect quickly and early about your ideas and just share them. So I think this is the key takeaway from, let's say, California, typically good at this. They pretty damn quick at doing things. So they meet up at coffee shops, the spitting image of just, let's, born the idea in a garage somewhere. But it's actually true. They just work it out real quick.
One of the factors that we see here is political decisiveness. Yeah. So I would like to ask you, Ulla Hamilton, you're a politician, you work with these questions. Do you have the decisiveness, and what is your vision for Sweden as a digital health society?
Can I interrupt before she answers that, which is...
Gives you more time to think.
I come from America, where we have very zero political involvement in our technology communities at all. Zero. And so when I come here and I see how engaged the government is here, and in the UK and other places, the UK is incredibly engaged. I get very envious, and I see what Ulla's doing. And I wish we had somebody in LA like her that was driving things, and we don't. So I don't know that it's a prerequisite, because Silicon Valley really doesn't have it, other than when the politicians are campaigning and Obama comes to town and he's trying to do a fundraising dinner, and then he says, well, how can I help you guys? And we're like, you can't help us. Just stay out of our,
And do you think that's applicable even in healthcare?
Health tech, this is the sticky point. It's like, where is tech going to take over health, or is health going to learn how to absorb tech, right? I mean, and that's not just a health question, that's a mining question, and all these industries. Tech is getting into every industry, media and everything else. And every industry on earth now is trying to figure out, Are the techies going to figure out? Finance is a perfect example. Is Klarna going to take over the banks, or are the banks going to figure out how to deal with tech? Right? And health has the same issue. So it's music, same thing. We don't know how this is going to play out. But to his point, I think if health wants to get serious about this, and it seems like they do, and this is a perfect forum and venue for this, is like this should be the catalyzing agent for getting most of these people who are really sincere about this to get together monthly, like we do with the Stockholm Tech meetups. There should be a digital health meetup monthly where all the stakeholders that are really sincere and interested in driving this forward get together. I think that's a fantastic idea.
And you should force all the politicians to go there in order to understand what's happening, because I think that's one thing that's really a challenge when we're talking about these issues. How many politicians have you had here today, for example? A lot of things is really, really happening on a daily basis. And we have a system in Sweden where we have well-developed welfare system, but it's also a system that's very, very closely connected to political decisions. And when the things are changing as rapid as they are today, it's really a true challenge to make people, decision makers, understand what's happening, and when they or we should sort of back off and let it happen, and when we should set the framework in order to sort of stimulate the development. And this is something that we have to discuss, but we don't do that at all. And I think that this is one of the greatest challenges, actually, from a political point of view in the society that we see today, with more transparency and the global competitions and so on. It is really, really important to try to understand what's happening. And too many of my colleagues, if I may say so, are sort of focusing on details in the system instead of looking up and see what's really happening and make it happen even more rapidly than it does today. So this is, yes, political decisions is really important, but you have to, before you make the decisions, you have to decide what kind of decisions shall you decide upon, and you have to understand what's happening before you make the decisions. Wow. Otherwise, you might hinder instead of support.
Yeah, well, it's a paint a bigger picture, make people believe in it, and let them sort out the details themselves. It's usually a better way of getting people to do things, usually.
I have to emphasize a point she's making, which is the government plays a big role in all of these decisions. Like Bitcoin as well is a good example of tech getting into finance. Like, well, how's that going to go? Well, ultimately, this is going to be a government decision whether they want to embrace Bitcoins and with the banks and what. And it takes people. You said it very well. It takes people who are on the ground every day, because tech moves so fast that you have to be there in the room on a day-to-day basis to really understand what's going on.
You're here today,
and you're here today, right? And this is what's happening. And it's to your point. There's a notable lack of political involvement in the day-to-day. There's very few exceptional people who are in it day-to-day, and this, to me, it's amazing, because in the U.S. it's almost non-existent. So when I see it here, and I see representatives here that are engaged day-to-day and get it, it's very encouraging. So that she can go and inform the people on the other side, what's going on, and be that important bridge. So
when we know that technology is moving so fast, it's really hard for people in this business to keep track. As you say, it's only the leading dog that notices the change. What is a good political decision then? Would that be to just back off? Would it be to open up availability of information, or what could be a good political decision here?
I'll let the others respond. I think Ulla said it just right. It's a case-by-case basis. Sometimes the right answer is to just back off, and sometimes the other answer is they really need to take a stand really quickly and make the decision happen, and then so it can,
But one example might be to sort of challenge the society as we do when we are working together with KTH and Stockholm University with the Open Lab, for example, where we actually present challenges within the elderly care, for example, and open up for businesses or for students or for researchers to come with solutions. That might be one way of doing it. To open up and show the rest of the society that we really need help in order to solve quite a lot of challenges that we have in the society today.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't necessarily have a recommendation how to do it from a political point of view, but it's interesting to follow the development in other countries. So not only if you leave US for a while, if you look at Saudi Arabia, they're going to build 200 new hospitals in the next 2 years. There's like a couple of guys that decided, let's spend some money on this thing and let's do it. So they're one of the biggest consultants and buyers right now in the world. So they're going to get this fixed. So that's interesting to see. I'm not necessarily it's the right way to do it, that we can adapt the same way, but at least learn from it. Same thing happened in Singapore and other areas too. So, and also definitely in China, where there's a whole distributed network of care that needs to be built over vast amounts of areas. So you need to go about the care practices in a whole different way. So you can learn quite a bit from that too.
Nya Karolinska.
Yeah,
New hospital.
I think it's important as well to acknowledge that. I mean, things are happening in a faster pace. Not only here, but all over the world. I mean, and we need to keep up, and we need to. That's why my previous question was as well. We need to identify what else we can do that we're not doing, that others might be doing as well. And I know we need to wrap up here, and I just wanted to comment on one thing. I mean, you're all here today for a reason, and you're hopefully here tomorrow as well, because this is one of the gatherings where we're seeing actually things happen. And I've heard some great comments during lunchtime and during the afternoon as well. From people who have met new people and such like that. And I'm really excited about all of... I like the idea of the digital health meetup thing.
Yeah,
and I know your T-shirt there is something
promoting my own
happening
tech
next
meetup,
next Friday, 5th.
The 5th of September.
Yeah,
we're doing a big... Ulla will be with me.
Yeah, it's the huge tech meetup. And, maybe we should do something with the digital health.
I know, with digital health.
We'll think about that one.
We should.
Yeah.
But somebody here, I would love you to take a vote and see who would raise their hand to be an organizer of a monthly digital health meetup here. If not the organizers of this event. Yeah. That really should happen.
Yeah. Well, that's a challenge to the audience, right?
Yes.
We need somebody to stand up and be the organizer of a digital health tech meetup organization that meets like on a monthly basis.
There's a hand right there.
And builds,
Yes. You have an organizer now.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, excellent.
What's your name? And where do you work?
When is the next one? Do you have a date for the next one? Do you need help with a venue as well?
You team up with Tyler. You team up with Tyler, and you tweet us something, and we'll present it tomorrow.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Perfect.
So we would like to give a warm hand. Thank you very much for a beautiful panel. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Thank you.